run the army roll that much deeper. Listen, my master, you should take a seat, sir. Really give a fuck if you can't call a pizza. Holding this fist with your ANC t-shirt. Body got so long, can I take it by like Caesar? Now shit, boy, to so military. Bad with the monitor, bro, so military. Like you ain't watch it, got good vision. True what you got to me, mechanist. Finish it, finish it, collaboration, curtain, finish it. So much, there's a fish. Put the man down on two.
I was born in '85 and kind of grew up since I was like really young, about 4 years old, on hip hop stuff. My older brother was 10 years older than me, so he was 15 when I was 5, and we got into a lot of American hip hop together. And then my dad is really big into jazz, like avant-garde jazz and bebop stuff as well. My mother into like soul and gospel and stuff, and then my sisters were into like 80s pop music and like early 90s R&B and pop. So I always had this big world of stuff around me, even from just when I was 5. And then about, I guess, 1996 or something, my cousin got the internet, and from then we were exposed to like really instant contact with the rest of the world. First we started it off just like being sneaky on like chat rooms and pretending to be like 40-year-old men or women and like just talking dirty on the internet. And then we got into getting music, learning lyrics, and yeah. So the influences come from all these sources, and it's just based on, I think, exposure, technology, and the generation that I'm from, that I'm not necessarily one thing, you know? When I was younger, I think I identified myself with hip-hop a lot, but after that, yeah, I'm as much into a lot of other stuff as I am into hip-hop.
Let me hear you
The space that we take up in music isn't so much about like this ethnic or exotic sense of music. It's just that it's not the Western, typical, straight, like a society of people who've had it going for them all the time. A lot of the time the music comes from, you know, not the ghettos, but like the other side. And I'm finding it like really interesting that these areas that are taken over by, whether it's war or famine or whatever, come up with these different styles of music. And yeah, it's an interesting journey. So yeah, I'm cool and I'm excited to be a part of it, to represent South Africa in that way alongside like people that I really respect. I think my exposure to white people's music was very limited, consciously and unconsciously. South Africa is very much a segregated society, you know, and growing up I wasn't really exposed to white music. And then one year I went on a road trip with a friend of mine across South Africa, and she made these amazing cassettes, and it was the first time in like one cassette I heard, for the first time I'd hear like The Cure, The Smiths, Joy-Division, Sisters of Mercy, all like at one time, all these songs. And it was pretty like defining moment for me, because then she'd give me the whole albums, and then all of a sudden I had like 20 gigabytes of just like albums, a whole different world of music. And I was about, I guess, 18, 19, 20 at the time. And then, yeah, it influenced me a lot. I'm 26 now. So that was a big other milestone in music for me. He's lost control. He's lost control again. He's lost control. And it used to feel small in his hands before he lost control. So all felt it makes sense, but then he lost control. The reason I worked with the Joy-Division thing wasn't necessarily because of me being a big fan of Joy-Division, but I was in South Africa listening to a lot of the house music there, and in the club there was a certain certain sense of doom, like this kind of tension in the music, like a real like darkness to the house music. It's party music, but it's not happy music. And I think it's because South Africa is like, it's a sunny society in a lot of ways, perfect weather, idyllic landscapes, but behind it there's always like a lot of darkness, a lot of sadness. So even our party music has a lot of that angst and anxiety and tension. And I related that to a lot of post-punk stuff, like coming from kind of stark, dark 80s, you know, Margaret Thatcher landscape. We forgot about the copyright question at the inception of hip-hop, and I think that's where a lot of this music owes a debt to hip-hop and its sense of taking, like just digging in the crates. You go, you get a bunch of stuff, chop it up, mix it up, and make it your own, you know? A lot of new musicians are building music videos out of like archive film footage, but not really in the old school way. They're manipulating the film with like all kinds of digital technology, and the edits are really interesting, and they're like intercutting stuff, but along the screen it's really interesting, yeah. And I think that's the new expression of that. Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks a lot for having me, and I hope you can catch a lot of other stuff that's coming out of South Africa, because the music scene in South Africa right now is more vibrant than it's ever been, and a lot of it has to do with like we're talking about the internet, but also a big development is the personal computer and people's ability in whatever, like wherever they're from, to be able to make music like that. So you have people from the most unlikely or poverty-stricken areas, whatever, making like really, really progressive, exciting music. Yeah. So I hope you can check out a lot more South African stuff.